Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you the Congressman from the 1st District of the Province of Cagayan, Congressman Jack Enrile.
First of all, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. It is indeed a distinct honor and a privilege for me to speak before a distinguished crowd of local government officials and dedicated public servants such as the provincial administrators present here today. So before I start with my speech this morning, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincerest appreciation to the National President of the Provincial Administrators League of the Philippines, Mr. Nano Ronquillo of Agusan Sur. We met each other last April. That was about 7 months ago in your beautiful province. Kilala ko rin po ang inyong Executive Vice President, si Rafi Baraan of Pangasinan, when I went to visit him in the Capitolio there. By the way, what a wonderful, beautiful Capitolio that they have there in Pangasinan. The Vice President for Luzon, Ginoong Angel Saulong of Mindoro Oriental. The Vice President for the Visayas, Mr. Vince Emnas of Leyte. Secretary General Atty. June Ragasa of Laguna, a beautiful province as well. Council of Elders Chairman Geoffrey Tilan of La Union. Sir, hello again. And Executive Director Boy Limbago for graciously inviting me to stand, or actually sit before you today and exchange thoughts with you on matters that both you and I may find important. Ladies and gentlemen, looking at the eminent people seated before me this morning brings to my mind my father, Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile. Si gusto ko happy ka. Who, much like you, has made public service his lifetime devotion. He has spent 46 years of his life as a government official and a public servant, dedicating his time and effort in the service of our country and our people. I have personally witnessed how demanding this calling has been for him. And likewise, how worthwhile and fulfilling it is for him to see his constituents benefit from his hard work. Yours is no different. As provincial administrators, you are the alter egos of your respective provincial chief executives. You serve at the front line in the continuing battle to deliver basic services to your people. You are the troubleshooters of your particular provinces. Yours is the responsibility to effectively manage the bureaucracy, ensuring that everything is all systems go in the day-to-day operations of the provincial government. Sa aking paglilibot sa iba't ibang mga lalawigan ng ating bansa, para isulong ang ilan sa aking mga advokasya, ako'y naging saksi sa sigasig ng mga provincial administrators. Kayo po ang unang tumutulong upang higit na maipabatid ang aming mga panukala sa inyong mga kababayan, at kaalinsabay nito, iniuugnay nyo rin kami sa mga upang higit naming maunawaan ang kanilang kalagayan, at nang sa gayon, gusto naming maihain ang mga panukala sa legislatura na siyang tutugon sa kanilang mga hinaing. At dahil po dito, humahanga ako sa inyong sipag. Sumasaludo po ako sa inyo. You are a vital piece of the machinery that makes our government run effectively and efficiently. Ladies and gentlemen, as we expect our population to hit the 100 million mark in a year or two, it is imperative for us leaders to anticipate the changing needs of our people without losing sight of our collective goal as a nation. All too often in the past, our country has missed several opportunities to grow and develop because of the imprudent decisions that our previous leaderships have made, decisions that were either arrived at in the myopia of personal agendas or in the carelessness of rash thinking. Worse, we have been overtaken in terms of economic development by our neighboring countries, not because of our lack of potential to be globally competitive, but because of our apparent inability to sustain the programs and projects that are meant to develop our country and expand our economy. Our inconvenient truth as a nation, ladies and gentlemen, is that we lack a sense of continuity. Let us take as an example our performance in the field of agriculture. During the period between the 1950s and the 1970s, we enjoyed the bounty of our local produce when at that time, the Philippines was hailed as one of the top rice-producing regions in the world. We were even praised internationally for our advanced research capabilities as manifested with the establishment of the International Rice Research Institute in 1960 and our willingness to share our experience and expertise in rice production with our neighboring countries. At that time, food was never a problem for us. At that time, we were at the leading edge of agricultural research. At that time, we even exported our excess production to other countries. Decades later, the table has turned and we find ourselves importing the very food that we eat from the very same countries that we previously shared our expertise on food production with. And despite having a vast land area available for agriculture, our national government is spending excessively just to feed our people by importing 2 to 3 million metric tons of rice annually. Clearly, a lack of continuity. In previous years, the national government's primary strategy towards lessening our country's poverty incidence, particularly in urban areas, was through the opening of the marketplace. The objective then was to attract investments and to encourage the establishment of business operations in the country, thereby creating employment opportunities and other income-generating ventures for our people. Today, poverty alleviation is often confused with the concept of conditional cash transfer, the present administration's pet project. With the absence of clear-cut measures to address the unemployment and job mismatch woes, the fate of our 3 million unemployed citizens recorded at the start of this year will clearly remain in question. Again, a lack of continuity. Let it be on record, ladies and gentlemen, that I personally do not subscribe to the idea of conditional cash transfer as an anti-poverty alleviation measure. My reason is simply this: it will not promote industry and productivity among our people. Rather, these conditional cash transfer programs will only doom the least fortunate of our fellow Filipinos to outright mendicancy. Ang dapat ay turuan natin silang mangisda at hindi bigyan lamang ng isda. Iniinsulto po natin ang kakayahan ng ating kapwa na kumita at umasenso gamit ang sarili nilang kakayahan. Dapat ay turuan at palawakin natin ang kanilang kapasidad upang sila ay makahanap ng sariling trabaho o pagkakakitaan at upang hindi sila umaasa na lamang sa anumang uri ng paglilimos galing sa gobyerno. Earlier this year, I called the attention of the Department of Social Welfare and Development in my desire to find out how the program has been implemented thus far in the provinces that it supposedly covers. I wanted the DSWD to provide a detailed accounting of the funds that it has received before we in Congress approve the 16 billion peso increase that the department has requested for the program next year. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, from the 23 billion that was allocated for the project this year, the national government wants to spend a total of 39 billion for the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program next year. We are now nearing the end of fiscal year 2011, and yet we remain clueless as to how the money for this program is being used, or if it even is serving its intended purpose in the first place. That is good money down the drain if the program fails to reach its goals. What is further alarming for me is the fact that some of our local government units were even consulted by the DSWD in determining who the rightful beneficiaries of the program should be. Hindi po kayo kinonsulta, tama po. Yes, the agency may have the National Household Targeting System to identify the number of indigents in a particular locality, but wouldn't our local government officials be in a better position to know who among their constituencies are best qualified as program beneficiaries? Why can't the DSWD create partnerships with local executives to ensure that the money spent on the program will land in rightful hands? Maraming hinaing po akong naririnig sa mga probinsya hinggil sa CCT na ito na sadyang nakakabahala na. Ika nga sa akin ng isang obispo, sa halip na dumadami ang nagpapacheck up sa ospital o nababawasan ang gutom sa pamilya, dumadami lamang ang benta ng yosi at alak sa bawat kanto. Uulitin ko po ang aking posisyon. Pagkakataon at trabaho, hindi po paglilimos. These short-sightedness and inconsistencies in the implementation of government policies and action plans cannot and will not bridge the gaps that continue to divide us socially and economically. Neither will we be able to close these gaps if we continue to blame and live by the shadows of our own past. My dear friends, aiming for the top requires the conceptualization and implementation of wiser and bolder ideas. Progress and development will not be attained with a mere snap of our fingers. It will come as a result of our conscious, well-planned, and consistent action. As leaders in your provinces and as public managers, I believe that we should share in the notion that we need to steer the ship, not to row the boat. Allow me to share with you some of my advocacies that can contribute in the steering of our ship. Agriculture has always been a special place in the heart of us Enriles, because almost all of my relations in Gonzaga, Cagayan, trace their roots on their livelihood to farming. I am a witness to their burdens as well as to the many other food producers whom I have had the chance to meet in my sectoral consultations in the provinces. They are the reason why I penned House Bill 4626, or the Food for Filipinos First Act. Under this proposed measure, the Department of Agriculture, together with the Department of Trade and Industry, shall be tasked to define and put together a national food requirement plan that will ensure that all Filipinos will be first to consume what is locally produced in our country before exporting our excess products to the international market. The measure also upholds the policy of non-conversion of agricultural lands strategically identified by the Department of Agriculture for any commercial or residential purposes. The state needs to maximize the potential of its idle lands in order to beef up food production in the region. Dahil una dapat sa lahat ay masiguro natin na ang pagkain atin aanihin ay mapakinabangan muna natin. Walang Pilipino ang dapat magutom sa sariling bayan. Walang dapat mamatay dahil kumakalam ang kanilang tiyan sa isang bayan na malaki naman ang kakayahan na maging masagana sa pagkain. Walang magsasaka o mangingisda ang dapat maghirap dahil umiikot sa kanila ang napakahalagang siklo ng produksyon sa bansa, ang pagpakain. Dapat ay palakasin natin ang kanilang kakayahan upang sila rin ay makinabang sa pagkain, sila rin ang umaani. Patunayan natin hindi sila mga bayani limon. Should this measure pass through the legislative mill, local government units will be the key actors in realizing this process. The determination of the Provincial Food Requirement Plan shall be the prime task of your chief executives. Clear mechanisms should be in place in order for you to determine your own food requirements and levels of food production. In this manner, provinces will be able to effectively identify and map out which food produce can be sold outside its neighboring regions or even possibly abroad. The essence of having a provincial food requirement plan lies in the need to provide food to our constituencies first and to effectively identify our agricultural strengths and opportunities. As provincial administrators, you will be instrumental in this endeavor in as much as your provincial food requirement plan will serve as your guideposts in planning or beefing up your respective provincial agricultural programs. I know it has always been an interesting discourse among local government leaders as to how we will define and chart out the state of mining in our country. Presently, there exists our Mining Act, RA 7942, which establishes guidelines for both large and small-scale mining. But just like any other controversial issue, debates and arguments usually heat up when the topic of mining is discussed. Conservatives are demanding an all-out mining ban, while there are those who opt to maintain the status quo. Of course, there are also issues raised in such matters as the allocation of revenue shares between the local government units and the mining operators. I would like to proffer my own thoughts on this. As far as Cagayan is concerned, I have clearly stated my opposition to mining. But if the local governments decide to pursue and encourage the industry in their area, it must be with caution and with the assurance that the affected communities, more than anything else, benefit from the activities. We will soon file a bill that seeks to ensure that this does happen. That, for me, is responsible mining. I ardently believe that we should maximize our resources to its fullest potentials without undermining other things on the plate. I share the views of my many colleagues that there is a need to study the existing mining law. If ever I were to describe my political life in a bill which I filed, it would have to be this. House Bill 553, the Magna Carta for Household Helpers, or Batas Kasambahay. It was the very first legislative measure I filed when I first became a congressman in 1998. Unfortunately, the Batas Kasambahay is still pending at the House of Representatives despite its inclusion on the President's priority measures as announced during his State of the Nation address this year. The Batas Kasambahay aims to include our domestic helpers within the ambit of the formal labor sector and to protect them from the different kinds of abuse and ill treatment that they are currently exposed to. The Batas Kasambahay sets the minimum wage for house helpers of 3,000 pesos for those residing in Metro Manila, 2,500 pesos in chartered cities and municipalities, and 2,000 for the rest of the country. The proposed measure also enumerated the benefits that will be received from SSS and PhilHealth, including having a 13th month pay and a 14th-day vacation with pay each year, along with maternity and paternity leave. My dear friends, it is my hope that you will make these personal advocacies of mine your own crusades as well, as we forge a healthy collaboration with each other to make our legislations attuned to the needs and demands of our respective provinces and the general citizenry. I always say that NCR is not the Philippines, and the Philippines is not NCR. At any time, in any given circumstance, we should be able to start moving because the future of our nation should neither solely depend on the fortune nor the pace of a single region or province. It should be the collective task of all our provinces. Together, we can steer the ship towards our desired ocean of development. We are the captains of our provinces. We should take the lead. Maraming pong salamat sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay ang liga po nyo. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas.